Folks, this is Peter Cannon from Cannon Digital Photographer in Melbourne. Today I wanted to do a wee tutorial for people that are new to Photoshop and find it a wee bit scary or find it a wee bit hard to work out. I just wanted to show you how simple it really is to work in. So what I'll do is I'll open Photoshop up here. This is Photoshop CS6 or the CC version from Creative Cloud. So it's as simple as going File, Open to open a photo. Now you'll get some options come up here as to what's on your desktop, etc. You'll find your hard drives and things listed down here if you've got a hard drive plugged in. Now I've got a photo here that I've dropped onto the desktop, and I think it's this one here. So I can either double click that and it'll open, or I can click it once and go open. And that'll bring it up, probably because it's a RAW, I presume it'll be a RAW file. I shoot mostly in RAW. And it'll bring up a dialog box here called Adobe Camera Raw. Now this is version 8.2. So for any RAW files, and RAW, when you shoot on a camera on a DSLRs, you generally have the option of shooting on RAW or JPEG. So RAW gives you a lot more information in the photo, which means you can do a lot more in Photoshop with it or in post with it, but it gives you a lot more detail. So it is always an advantage to shoot in RAW, really. But to open a photo in Photoshop that is RAW, you need to have the Adobe Camera Raw. Now that's a free download for people that have Photoshop, and you need to go through this dialog box. Now there is a lot of options in here for making some early corrections, and generally that's what I'll do with my RAW files, is make some corrections just to get the image a wee bit closer to what I'm trying to get. So this is a night shot taken at St Kilda Beach. You can see the lights there are quite nice. Up in the sky here, yeah, it's a plane has flown through the air. So well, I'll show you how to take that out of there. But that's the plane. The exposure has started here and gone through to here. It's probably a 20 or 30-second exposure, which it tells me this information over here. So it's a 30-second exposure at f8 at 100 ISO on the 24-105 lens. Right, so often I'll put a wee bit of clarity in here. If I want to, I'll bring up the shadowed areas, which will just bring more information into on the beach here. Probably it's not doing too much here at the moment. I will increase the contrast a bit because I want this to be nice and contrasty with these lights here. Now I could change my color temperature here as well, probably to get that yellow glow of the lights out. I'll drop it back a wee bit and it'll go a bit more blue. You can see how blue it goes when I go right back. I quite like that effect. I'll go to about 26 or 2700 temperature Kelvin. There we go, somewhere there. Okay, so I'll go open image there, and the image will come up in Photoshop. So there's a few things there I can see already that I need to do to that photo, but the basic things that you would start with would be doing the contrast, doing the brightness levels, maybe the color saturation. So I've picked a night shot here because it is a shot I needed to process anyway, so it won't be the sort of shot that everyone does, but here's an idea anyway. Okay, so we have our beach here and all the lights reflecting and so forth. We've got this plane up that's gone through here. I could leave that in because it's just part of what was in it, but I'll probably take it out. One of the first things I'll do is use this tool here, the selection tool, and just draw a line across the middle here to see how my horizon sits with a horizontal line. So you can see there we've got a bit of a sloping issue. So there's a number of different ways you can rearrange the horizon here. You can go into Image, Rotation, and go Arbitrary, and that allows you to adjust it by points in clockwise or counterclockwise. So in this case we want to go clockwise, don't we, to get that line matching the line that's there. Probably just from experience I'll know it's at least 1 degree, so we'll hit 1 there and go clockwise and hit OK, and this will curve it. You can see how much curves happened there, if I just draw that line again, you can see that I'm much closer to a horizon being straight there. I could go a wee bit further perhaps, so we'll go image rotation arbitrary and perhaps go 0.3 this time. So we'll go a wee bit more. 0.3 will make it not quite as big a move as last time. So again, we draw that line in, and you'll see that that's much closer to a good horizontal line there. The other way we could do it, remember over here in the where we've got history, we can step back. If we decide we don't want that, we can step back one step at a time. So if I go back to open, that's where we originally opened. If we go back here, that's where we got to with rearranging the horizon. So that was one way of moving the horizon. The other way to do it is to click on the crop tool. Now actually click on the picture, and then if you go outside one of the corners here, you can grab this and it gives you quite a grid, and you can just slowly twist until you get it to rotate, and you've got some nice lines there in the grid to give you a guideline as to where your horizontal line is. So about there is right. So that's probably a slightly easier way of doing it. I'll toggle back here because I wanted to keep the multi-bridge in there. You see the multi-bridge just on the edge there, I quite like that. And notice that I'm going over the edge here. I'm not too concerned about that because I can fill that back in. So probably in there is good, so we'll just tick that. So we've straightened the horizon, and I'll just double check my image size too once this has gone through its process, and just see that my image size is not too big and it's not going to take too long to move things around. Generally you'll set your image size to a size that you want it for, either for printing later or to give you a decent size file just to hold on file. So if we go image and image size, that'll come up and tell us how big it is. So it's a bit over a 12 by 18 image. So probably 12 by 18 is pretty good, I reckon. If I just put that back to 0, we're pretty good there. Go OK to that, and that'll do an image size change. So that makes it, as you can see down on the left down here, that makes it a 58 megabyte file size. If we save it as a JPEG, of course, it'll compress it and save it as a smaller file than that on your computer. The highest quality saving is saving it in a TIFF, which has no compression, so the file will actually be 58 megabytes. So I will mostly save in JPEG unless I know that I'm printing something really big. And with this one, a 12 by 18, it'll print fine from a JPEG file. Now we've got, this is the cloning tool here. Now with my brackets on the keyboard, if I go to the right bracket, I can enlarge that. Left bracket shrinks it. So I'll come over here and just select some information from over here and just fill in that corner. So what I've done is I've held on an Apple, I've held the Option key down, and that allows me to move my mouse and to select an area that I'm going to take information from. So I'll click there, let go of that Option key, move across, and now it'll transfer information from there to where my circle is. And you can see that if I go down here, I'm pretty much just transferring that information all the way down across into that corner to cover that area. There we go, that's pretty much covered that area, and we've taken information from about this area, so it matches pretty good in there. So that's good. Now if we want to get rid of this, we've got to be careful with the gradient going into the sky. You notice it's a wee bit darker up there. As you get down closer to the lights, it's a bit lighter. We can't go, it's really critical where we select this from. If I select from here and go up and put onto there, you can see already that's going to be way too dark. If I'm going to clone anything out, I've got to clone pretty close to it at the same sort of lighting level. So if I imagine that that's darker up there, lighter there, if I go in about the middle here and I come away some distance, now in here I should get a clone that's pretty close match for the lighting and colour, shouldn't I? And as you see, it's pretty much invisible at that if I just keep going like that. And I'm just doing it in wee steps. I might make that mouse a wee bit bigger. and we'll just go across there, just a wee step at a time, don't go too far. Another one across there. We've pretty much got rid of it. Now you can see it has left already, it has left a bit of a line in there, so even with what I was doing there, it's not really truly covered that well, so it does get a wee bit tricky. For the purpose of just showing you a quick way to clone that out, I won't go into fixing it up fully. Skies are a wee bit awkward. You can see there that's probably improved it quite a bit. It's still a wee bit patchy in there perhaps. Oops, I'll just select from there with holding the Option key down and go back, and I think we're probably pretty good there. It's a wee bit patchy, but we won't worry about that part of it at the moment. It was showing you the basics of cloning it out. Right, so that's pretty close to what we want. Now we'd look at, say, going into image and adjust. Now the most common adjustments that you'll make come from this area, image and adjust, because then you down this this menu here, you get brightness and contrast, you get color saturation, color balance, and things like that, and shadows and highlights. Probably in a nighttime shot, I wouldn't worry about the shadows and highlights too much, but with most day shots, you will look at highlights and shadows. So if I just look at brightness and contrast for a start, probably increasing the contrast a bit will make it a bit more punchy. Yeah, really getting darkening down further, really gets those lights to stand out. So that's probably pretty good at that. I've already done a colour balance, so we're probably pretty good at that. I don't think I want to raise the information in here too much. If I did want to, I can go, this is the dodge and burn tool here, so I can go dodge. Now dodge makes things lighter. You can set the exposure of it here. I've got it set at 50%, so if I just do a quick sweep through there, you'll see it'll lighten up, and it's quite subtle at 50%. It just brings a bit more information back in there. I could probably do another sweep. So we try and keep that sweep fairly even. You can see it just brings a little bit of information up there, just makes it a bit more interesting, a bit lighter there. So that's alright, I quite like seeing that bit of light there. If I wanted to darken things down a bit, I would hold the mouse key down there and go to the burn tool. And again, I'm adjusting this with the brackets to go lighter or darker. I could probably burn, oops, go a bit lighter. I can probably burn that down just a touch. You'll see it just darkening a touch as I do that. So that's probably pretty good there. If we just go to the clone tool again, I might just do a wider sweep of that. I'll make that larger and just do a wider sweep across where we took that plane out, just to sort of even the lighting up there a bit. That's probably a bit better, I think. And that's probably taken the patchiness out of it. Alright, well, we're pretty good at that, so that just gives an idea of how to open a photo and work on it in Photoshop. In the end, we then go File, Save As, and our file number will come up. So those last 4 digits are the critical numbers for me. So I'll just put St Kilda night, and that'll do us there with a I always leave that number there because that's the reference back to the original file. A JPEG's fine for what I'm doing here, and it'll come up with an option that tells me, as long as I've got that preview tick there, it'll show me how big the file size is going to be, and 2 megabytes is fine for this. I could easily print that at 8 by 12 from that. So we'll just go save, okay, and that there's saved. So that's really all I wanted to show you, was just how to open a photo, play around with it a wee bit, and save it. So it's as simple as that in Photoshop. You have all these other tools here that I can go through at a different stage, but that gives you the basic idea of what we were trying to achieve anyway. Okay, so that's the wee Photoshop tutorial for beginners, just to show you a wee bit of how to open a photo and do some basic adjustments on it in Photoshop. This is Peter Cannon from Cannon Digital in Melbourne. Look forward to seeing you again in another tutorials shortly. Take care.